How's it going? Adam Drake here, and today I'm going to take you through the steps or process of sealing your carburetor and also talk about a few other little tips when you're getting ready to install an engine into your nitro vehicle. The carb sealant of choice that I use is from Lucky 7. I've used this for a really long time, but the last couple of years it hasn't been available. I recently reached out to them and they were able to make a fresh batch, and it's now available again to everyone. We will have this stuff on thedrakeracing.com, or you can message me if you would like to get a bottle for yourself. But I will go ahead, change the camera view, and I will go over how I seal a carburetor on an OS Speed 83 Nitro engine. Okay, so a couple things to consider before installing the engine is you want to make sure you have the proper orientation for the ball or the assembly where the ball cup for your linkage snaps onto the engine, and also the orientation or angle of the carburetor. What I like to do, I have a pretty good idea because I've gone through and installed so many of these into Mugen vehicles. I have a really good idea of where the ball orientation needs to be. But what I like to do is just take small drop of thread lock and install or put that on the set screw before installing the set screw onto the engine. This is something that is sometimes like overlooked. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. It's not something you think to kind of check or adjust. So that's why I like to use a little bit of thread lock, because once this is set, you want to just kind of forget about it. And you also want to make sure that this never comes loose, because it can cause a runaway if this whole assembly comes off the carburetor. So next, I am going to go ahead and remove the screw for the pinch bolt. So I'm going to go ahead, take that all the way out. Then I have the screw also removed. So just like with the set screw here, I'm going to apply just a small amount of thread lock and then just kind of put in just a little bit of the ways. It doesn't need to be tight or anything yet. So as far as sealing the carburetor, the most important part is to seal around the base. There is an O-ring, and technically you don't have to seal your carburetor, but this is just a safety precaution to make sure that your engines run consistent and to reduce any chance of having an air leak. So you can take the Lucky 7 carb sealant. It's a liquid, so it's not as thick as like a silicone or like a high temp RTV. So you can actually just apply it right from the bottle, or if you wanted, you could put a little bit of it on a table or on like a penny and then use an X-Acto knife to apply it. But I'm going to just apply it directly out of the bottle. And then I'll take a 1.5 MIP wrench and just go all the way around to make sure you have a constant bead of sealant. It's super difficult to see because obviously the carburetor is black and then also the sealant is black. If you have any excess, you can just kind of take the tip of your finger, wipe all the way around, and any excess wipe off. Then I'm going to go ahead and slide the carburetor into the case. And again, because you're using the carb sealant, you want to check and make sure you have the proper orientation, because when the carb sealant dries, if you have to readjust this, it's going to basically break that sealant loose. So on the Mugen car or truck, there's an indicator line on the crankcase here, and then also a rib on the carburetor. So what I found to be the proper angle is if I, with the way I'm looking at it right now, if I go off the right side of that rib and line that up with the line on the case, it'll give me the proper orientation. So I'm going to go ahead and just slightly adjust that. And this sealant doesn't set up super fast, so you have a little bit of time. You can kind of move it around a little bit. It's actually not a bad idea to work the carburetor back and forth just a little bit to, again, make sure you kind of equally spread out that carb sealant. And then next, I'm going to seal the back side of the pinch bolt. So we just apply that just to make sure that there's no possible air leak there. Again, it's probably pretty difficult to see because it's on a black crankcase with black sealant. And then I will flip the engine over, and the side where the head of the pinch bolt is, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to apply a little bit of sealant, and then I'll just take a 1.5, or you can use an X-Acto, and then I'm going to just make sure that has a nice even bead all the way around. You don't need to necessarily go over the head of the screw, but you just want to make sure that that pinch bolt is sealed to the case, and then also around the head of the screw. Again, this being that it's very much a liquid, it's really easy to make it have a really nice bead all the way around on both sides. Now, again, it's not mandatory to seal your carburetor. With the OS engines, the pinch bolt, the carburetor where it seats into the case, there's O-rings, so everything should seal pretty good without using carb sealant. It's just the carb sealant is a extra layer of protection to make sure you have a consistent running engine. And then you'll just want to let this sit and dry, I would say 20 minutes or so, and it should be pretty much set up. You can seal your back plate. I don't like to seal the back plate just because the back plate has such a good seal from the factory, and you're sometimes removing the back plate to check or service the engine, where for the most part, if you don't have a major problem, once the carburetor is on the engine, you're not taking it off. You're not adjusting the angle. So I like to make sure that the carburetor is sealed, and then again, I don't worry about backplate. As far as the fuel inlet nipple, you could also seal that if you wanted. The scary thing with trying to disassemble this and use the carb sealant is if you put a little bit too much sealant and it gets in there, it can cause debris to be into the carburetor, or a bit of this sealant to be into the carburetor and make the tune inconsistent. So if you want to seal the high-speed assembly and fuel inlet, I would tighten this down, have the proper orientation, and then just seal around the outside. But I think it looks a lot cleaner without having the sealant on there. And as long as you check this every so often, it's not really a place where you generally have a leak. So again, just wanted to share with you how I seal the carburetors on my OS Speed engines, and also let you know about the Lucky 7 carb sealant that is now available on the drakeracing.com.